Hola, ¿qué tal? Today we're revising Spanish articles. Super easy, so don't click away yet. Alright, quick refresher. In Spanish, we have definite and indefinite articles. Definite articles point to something specific or already known. In English, we just say the for everything, but in Spanish, the article changes depending on the gender and number. Indefinite articles talk about something non-specific, something unknown. In English, they are a or an or some. So definite are el for masculine singular, la for feminine singular, los for masculine plural, and las for feminine plural. Indefinite are un for masculine singular, una for feminine singular, unos for masculine plural, and unas for feminine plural. And of course, we can't forget the neutral law. Let's take a look at some examples. El turismo es un gran problema. La inteligencia artificial es inquietante. Los inmigrantes vienen de diferentes lugares. Las celebridades son populares. We can see el turismo is masculine singular, therefore we need to use the article el. Inteligencia is feminine singular, therefore we need to use la. Or los inmigrantes, masculine plural, therefore lo. O las celebridades, feminine plural. Es ese, isn't it? Examples with the indefinite. Un dictador nunca es bueno. Una actriz mexicana ganó el premio. Unos desconocidos atacaron a unos inmigrantes. Hay unas políticas muy estrictas en esta empresa. We can see un dictador is masculine singular, therefore we need to use un. Una actriz, feminine singular, una. Unos desconocidos, some is masculine plural, o unas políticas, some policies, feminine plural. So far so good. Let's learn the uses now. First, we use definite articles when referring to something specific, something we already know. For example, el libro está en la mesa. We're not talking about just any book. We mean the book we know about and the table that we already have in mind. Or las flores son bonitas. Here we're talking about those flowers we can see, maybe in front of us, so not flowers in general. The second use maybe surprises you. Spanish also uses definite articles for general statements. In English, we say I like coffee. In Spanish, we say gusta el café. It literally means I like the coffee, but we're talking about coffee in general, not a specific cup. Same thing with ideas or concepts. We say la libertad es importante. Literally, the freedom is important, but again, it means freedom in general. Another moment where Spanish loves definite articles is when we talk about body parts or clothing. In English, we say my head hurts. In Spanish, we say me duele la cabeza. Literally, the head hurts me. Or se lava la cara, he washes his face. But notice we don't say su cara. It's already obvious whose face it is. If you add my or his, it can sound a little redundant, like saying I wash myself my face. It's not always wrong, just necessary in most cases. And finally, days of the week. Spanish uses the article when talking about the days in a general or habitual way. When in English say on Monday I have a class, in Spanish we say el lunes tengo clase. Instead of on, we say the Monday I have class. Or los domingos vamos al parque. Literally, the Sundays we go to the park. Up next, we'll look at the moments when Spanish suddenly doesn't use these words. Alright, now let's look at the other side of the coin. When Spanish actually drops the articles. Let's start with the really common one. When we describe someone's profession, nationality, religion, political views, or social status using the verb ser, Spanish usually does not use the article. If we simply telling you what someone is, a doctor, a teacher, Spanish Catholic, so we say, ella es doctora, she's a doctor, o él es español, he's Spanish. We're just classifying the person. But now, watch what happens when we start talking about a specific one. If I say, ella es la doctora del hospital, now the things are different. Now we are identifying the doctor, a specific one. Or, él es el español que conoces, he's the Spaniard you know. Here's the shortcut. If you're just classifying someone, don't use the article. If you're identifying a specific one, you need it. Now let's move on to another group. Verbs like tener, poseer, llevar, usar, verbs that already express possession. For example, tiene fiebre, he has a fever. O usa gafas, she wears glasses. Lleva sombrero, he's wearing a hat. No article because the possession is already understood. But again, if we're talking about something specific, the article comes back. Tiene la fiebre de todos los años. He has his usual yearly fever. O lleva el sombrero rojo. He's wearing the red hat. O usa las gafas de su madre. She wears her mother glasses. So, general or understood ownership, no article. A specific object, article returns. Finally, we have some expressions with prepositions. I'm not repeating what a preposition is. I told you 1,000 times. Like en, de, con, sin, especially when we're speaking in a general or abstract way. For example, habla con franqueza, he speaks frankly. O vive en paz, he lives in peace. O salió sin abrigo, he went out with a coat. No article because we're talking in general sense. Peace in general, frankness in general, any coat. But the moment we turn that noun into something specific, the article reappears. Con la franqueza de un niño, with the frankness of a child. O vive en la paz del campo, he lives in the peace of countryside. O salió sin el abrigo nuevo, he went out without the new coat. So here's the big idea. No article with something is general. Use the article when you're talking about a specific thing. Now let's look at 3 more situations where Spanish says, nope, we don't need the la, los, las here. The next rule shows up when we address something directly by a title. It's obvious. If we are speaking to them, we don't use the article. So we say, buenos días, Dr. García, or hola, señor Pérez. No article because we're talking to them. It's obvious. But the second we start talking about that person, the article returns. El doctor García está ocupado, the doctor is busy. O el señor Pérez ha llegado, Mr. Pérez has arrived. Now, another place where articles disappeared. Fixed expressions and idioms. Spanish has tons of set phrases where the article is simply not used. For example, a mano, by hand, or en casa, at home, or en cama, in bed. But watch what happens the moment we make the expression specific. Está en la cama del hospital. He's in the hospital bed. Now we're not talking about a bed in general anymore. We're talking about a specific verb, so the article comes back. Finally, we have article omissions with numbers and measurements, especially in phrases that express a cost, rate, or quantity in a set expression. For example, pagan 100 euros hora, they pay 100 euros per hour. No article needed, it's a standard rate expression. But if the amount becomes specific, that changes. Pagan los €100 acordados. They paid the agreed €100. See the pattern? The article is dropped when something is general. The article reappears when something becomes specific. Summarizing all these patterns, we use the article in Spanish for general categories, specific items, and specific day of the week, body parts and clothing, and talking about titled people. We omit the article in Spanish for professions, religious, nationalities after the verb ser, set expressions, prepositional phrases with general ideas when we are addressing somebody directly, or simple naming of the day. Now let's talk about the indefinite articles. The first big use is to introduce something new. If we mention an object or a person for the first time, Spanish usually uses un or una because we haven't identified it yet. For example, quiero una manzana, I want an apple, or unos amigos me ayudaron, some friends helped me. Now watch how the meaning changes when we switch to the definite article. El coche está afuera, the car is outside, we know which one. But if we say un coche está afuera, a car is outside, some just car, we don't know which. So whenever something is new or a noun, we start with un or una. Another major use is when we describe what kind of person someone is. We're not just saying someone is a doctor or a woman. We're describing their qualities. That's when the indefinite article becomes important. For example, es un buen médico, he's a good doctor. Or es una mujer inteligente, she's an intelligent woman. Now remember, if we just starting the profession or nationality without any description, we would drop the article completely. But the moment we describe the type, we put the article back. Next, the plural forms unos and unas. Often they mean some or a few. So they don't just mean plural, they add a quantity. For example, tengo unos libros interesantes. I have some interesting books. O compramos unas frutas. We bought some fruit. O había unos 10 estudiantes. There were about 10 students. Here, unos, unas can even mean approximately. So they're not just plural, they're giving you a rough amount. And finally, Spanish uses indefinite articles in exclamations to emphasize strong qualities, whether positive or negative. For example, es un hombre de valor, he's a man of courage. O tiene una paciencia increíble, she has an incredible patience. Now let's talk about the moments when Spanish drops the indefinite articles. The first one happens after the verb ser, when we're naming someone's profession, nationality, religion, or ideology. I have mentioned this already, but without adding any descriptions. In these cases, Spanish does use un o una. So we say, Juan es español, Juan is Spanish, or ella es católica, she's Catholic. There's no a or an in Spanish here, because we're simply classifying the person, not saying what they are. But as soon as we add a description, the article comes back, because now we're specifying what kind they are. For example, ella es una católica ferviente, she's a devoted Catholic. Or él es un profesor excelente, he is an excellent teacher. So here's the rule. If we are stating a category, no article. If we're describing a type, the article returns. The second situation is when we use words that already imply the idea of one or a. Words like otro, cierto, tal, medio, and mil. For example, necesito otro lápiz. I need another pencil. Or we don't say un otro lápiz because otro already means another. Cierto hombre te buscaba. A certain man is looking for you. O tal cosa no existe. Such a thing doesn't exist. O medio kilo de pan, half a kilo of bread. O 1,000 personas, 1,000 people. All these words already contain the idea of a, so adding an article would be redundant. Finally, Spanish omits the indefinite article when talking about general or plural things or uncountable nouns. When we speak in general terms, not about specific ones, we simply leave out unos or unas. So we say compramos flores, we bought flowers in general. O niños juegan en el parque, children play in the park. Necesito agua, I need water. But if we mean some specific amount or intention, we bring back the article. For example, compramos unas flores para ti. We bought some flowers for you. It's now a specific amount. So remember, general categories or general plurals, no article. Specific quantity or intention, use it. And that brings me to quick public service announcements about otro, especially for those who still read un otro in the dark corners. Okay, un otro does not exist. Un otro no existe. For those in the back, un otro no existe. It doesn't exist. I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear here. Un otro doesn't exist. If I had a language school, I'd call it un otro no existe. Doesn't exist. Alright, now that we've cleaned up uno, unas, unos, unas, there's just one last word we need to discuss. And it's one of the most powerful little words in Spanish, lo. Most students struggle with lo because they treat it like a normal article, like a el or la, but it's not. Lo is the only truly neutral article in Spanish. It doesn't belong to masculine nouns. It doesn't belong to feminine nouns. Instead, it refers to ideas, qualities, or apt concepts. So when in English we use the expressions the good thing, the bad thing, the main thing, the most important thing, in Spanish the structure is lo and the adjective. This is how we talk about the abstract qualities. Listen to this. Lo bueno de viajar es aprender. The good thing about traveling is learning. Lo interesante de este libro es su historia. The interesting thing about this book is its story. O lo peor es el consumismo. So, sí, lo interesante, lo bueno, lo peor. Also, lo can be followed by past participle or adverb. For example, lo dicho, that which was said, or the aforementioned. O lo aprendido nunca se olvida. What has been learned is never forgotten. Now we need to look at a very, very common expression with lo that you hear constantly in Spanish. Lo que. This little duo means what or that which or the thing that, and it introduces ideas, not specific objects or people. For example, lo que dijiste me sorprendió. What you said surprised me. Lo que. No entiendo lo que pasa. I don't understand what's happening. O eso es lo que pienso. That's what I think. Again, you'll notice it's not referring to a physical object. It's talking about ideas. And now for one more powerful use of lo, the one that lets you express emphasis. So, lo followed by an adjective and adverb plus que. This structure is used the way English uses how plus adjective adverb. For example, no sabes lo guapa que estás. You don't know how beautiful you look. O mira lo rápido que corre. Look how fast he runs. O me sorprendió lo caro que era. I was surprised how expensive it was. O lo bien que canta. How well he sings. Before we wrap up, two quick notes. Lo never changes. It doesn't become lalos or las. It's always lo because it's not tied to gender or number. Lo is for ideas or abstract things, not objects. Lo is never used directly before nouns. That job belongs to ella, los, and las. And by the way, we did not cover lo as a direct object pronoun today. That's another video, another day. And that's all for the articles. Oh, before I go, did I mention that un otro does not exist in Spanish? No? Okay. Un otro doesn't make sense in Spanish. Don't forget to subscribe, click like or me gusta, and I will see you in the next lesson. Gracias, hasta luego.